Massive.
To yesterday's great day at VFL Park, and Peter Dacos is back. What a goal this was from the forward pocket.
Peter Dacos, welcome back.
Some you never quite see.
They had news for the Magpies.
Darren Mullane going down, and some you almost see.
No one will really score. Cloak down's a player.
Healy going down in the background. Bit of an all-in brawl follows.
Mullane go off the ground.
And then some came running. Mick McGuan.
Gets the hand pass away to McGuan. Magpies on the run. Looking good. Mick McGuan played in Collingwood's under-19 premiership team a couple of years ago. And Turner clears for Collingwood.
Alan Johnson for Melbourne goes for a run.
He marks those easily. It comes to Johnson.
Johnson breaks away from half-back. He's got plenty of room. He's already had 2 or 3 bounces. No
They were
mark.
great conditions considering it's winter in Melbourne now, and you can go for a bounce at VFL Park. Shane Kerrison.
Bounce. Has another. Outside the 50-metre area. Steins.
Brian Wilson played a top game for the Demons. Here he slips down, regains his footing and the ball, and snaps a goal.
Snap, pass by Wilson to goal.
Some big bumps in the game. Shaw and Johnson.
Tony Shaw there for Collingwood. Alan Johnson.
Brown and Yates.
Yates
And Graham Yates goes off the ground with a gashed face.
Cut about 2 in that last clash in the centre of the ground. Looks like a cut over his eyebrow.
Christian and Bailey clash.
And he gathers well at half-back.
This was the act of the day, perhaps, by McGuan. They reckon he'd been cleaned up. Did it hit him? Wilson played on and kicked the goal.
The Collingwood fans yelling for a shepherding free kick.
And now Brian Wilson to clinch the match, his 5th goal of the day.
Punch for goal and puts it through.
5 goals straight to Brian Wilson in a match-winning performance.
To yesterday now, David Cloak for Collingwood.
Towards half-forward. Great mark taken by Cloak.
Morwood.
And David Robertson for the Magpies.
Robertson, a great mark to get in front of Stretch. Now, just
Gavin Brown coming over the top.
One-out contest here. Oh, Brown came over to...
Up from
Big leap by Sean White.
Bad kick. White. Good, he does it well.
Ron McEwen back in the seniors at Collingwood.
There's a mark to Collingwood.
Massive kick.
To yesterday's action, and Peter Dacos early in the game from the pocket.
This is pretty close. What a great kick by Peter Dacos. Welcome back.
It was a game that had to be won in 1988. John Northey of Melbourne and Lee Matthews of Collingwood. Well done. It was a great spectacle. I don't know whether you worry about spectacles. John, you got the points. You must be very pleased.
Oh, yes, very pleased with it, Drew, but at the same time, as you say, it was great for football, I think. You know, that the people that came along there, really the game could have gone any way, and for people to come along and see a spectacle like that, I think is terrific for football, even though we got the 4 points, which is wonderful, but as far as football goes, it was great.
Now, neither of you were at Collingwood and Melbourne when they were doing their business so many years ago. Did that come into discussions leading up to the game at all?
Well, it didn't with us. That sort of supporters and media worry about tradition and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I just thought being involved in the Carlton-Collingwood match a month or 5 weeks ago, that was the biggest build-up to a home and away game I can ever recall, playing or otherwise. So, I mean, everything else seemed to be a little bit secondary to that.
Lee, you've had a terrific season so far and your backline's had a lot of credit, but you're not kicking big scores. Are you a little bit concerned about your forward setup?
Yes, because we're not kicking big scores. I don't know whether that's the nature of the way the game's being played or the way our sort of team is set up, but no, it is a problem. We're certainly holding the others to a fairly low scores, generally speaking, but we're certainly not looking like kicking, your 20, 25 goals, so certainly that's a problem.
On the other hand, John, your backline was great yesterday.
Yes, they were great. They were terrific, our backline yesterday. They worked really hard. They put pressure on every player when the ball came around their area. But once again, we're a bit the same as Collingwood, of course. When the ball comes forward, we do struggle down there a bit, and we have to work out some system where we do start kicking big scores. We haven't kicked many this year. I think one game that we've kicked perhaps near 20 goals, but apart from that, it's been in the mid-teens.
Yeah, well, when Dean comes back, I suppose that'll add another bow to your string, string to your bow, or whatever it is.
Well, I hope so, but the last game he played in, he kicked 7 points, so, without kicking a goal, but certainly he'll be of great benefit to us.
John and Lee, double barrel question. John, firstly, who did you consider Collingwood's prime movers, and did you tag them or did you give specific jobs to players, and who were they? And the same to you, Lee, as far as Melbourne were concerned.
Well, I felt that Mullane was certainly one of their prime movers, and we had Newport on Mullane, of course. he was doing very well early in the game, and then of course went off the ground. But then Newport picked up Dacos, and you know, Paul Hawke I have a great deal of time for as a player, and Bailey stayed on Hawke, and he was off the ground at three-quarter time. So every player I thought that we tagged, they did a very good job for us.
Well, our rovers, who generally speaking rove out of the back line, and Tony Shaw picked up Healy, and Shane Kerrison picked up Ricky Jackson. They were the only direct man-on-mans apart from our defenders who manned up their respective forwards sort of individually. But I mean, Brian Wilson is the player of Melbourne that I sort of probably believe is the what's the word, the player with the greatest match-winning potential of his own, you know, individual ability. But in fact, he was playing either half forward, so he had a back flanker on him, or he was playing in the centre, and we had Dacos or Mullane. So you know, you sort of back your own guys in there.
Well, you've gone into most games this season tagging the opposition rovers. Do you think this is a bit of a weakness, that you don't really have a genuine rover yourself to sort of create things at a vital times? Because I think against Essendon a few weeks ago, it was the rovers that really cut you apart late in the game.
Well, I've got sort of no doubts that that's inhibiting our goal kicking, you know, like not having the goal kicking rovers. But we don't think we've really got one that does that consistently enough to do that instead. Playing the rovers out of the back line, like last week against North Melbourne, I think Kerrison had about 25 and Shawey had about 25 to 30 odd possessions. So although they're playing out of the back line, they're still supposed to be ball getters, but of course they're not getting deep into the forward line, and therefore there's not much goal scoring coming from that smaller rover type.
Well, congratulations to both of you on whatever role you played on a fantastic spectacle yesterday, and thanks for coming in today. Lee Matthews and John Northey, pleasure to have them in the studio. The panel's still here, and after the break we'll be looking at the highlights and discussing all the matches yesterday.
It lived right up to expectations, and it was a game of great physical clashes. A lot of courage was shown on many occasions, and Mullane especially knocked out in that first quarter and came back on the ground and completed the next three quarters. But really it was a game of backlines. They were well on top. There was Stephen Stretch, had a great match, and really both backlines, Collingwood and Melbourne, were well on top. Collingwood fell down at centre half forward. Maud was a good player, and McGuan, a very good player also.
Collingwood, Bernie, going in with one ruckman, David Cloak. Now, we know that the ruck strength of Melbourne is very strong, and was that a mistake?
Well, they fell down there. Up to half-time, I thought it was reasonably even, but in that third quarter, Big O'Dwyer got well on top. Knockouts were fairly even at half-time, but that third quarter, when it really counted, O'Dwyer got on top, and Stynes with a couple of goals up on that forward line. Collingwood just could not counter the big man strength of Melbourne.
What about the strength of Melbourne? Basically, it's the same team as what they were last year, and they were winning games and losing games last year. There's a complete turnaround. What do you consider the turnaround?
Well, I think they've got a very good backline, Don. They didn't make it easy for Collingwood to score goals. The forward line is reasonably good, although yesterday it wasn't an easy game to kick goals. Their ruckmen are strong, and also I think their on-ball players are fairly good also.
Back onto the roving situation for Collingwood, Bernie, do you think that Ryan's being sacrificed a little bit by continuing on the bench when they're, you know, choosing to tag the opposition rovers?
Yeah, well, yesterday I think they could have used him on the ground a lot more, Kelvin, but they fell down in that roving department yesterday. Actually, their all on-ball players were beaten.
And your votes, Bernie?
My votes for yesterday, 1 to Stephen Stretch, a lot of possessions, 27 on the half-back line for Melbourne, 2 to Gavin Brown, was the best Collingwood player, and 3 to the match winner, Brian Wilson, with 5 goals straight and 33 possessions.
Well, Lee Matthews said he was going to be a problem, but he couldn't really stop it. 5 goals by Brian Wilson.